Hey guys, what's going on? David Avalon here with Robert Drysdale for another episode of Breaking the Guard. What's going on, Rob?
Lots, man. Work as always. Less training, but like not crazy, you know. My knees, man, they hurt every time I move around. I gotta get a really good warm up before I go. You know? Yeah. But lots of stuff, man. We're opening a new gym in Henderson.
Nice.
Signed the lease today. It's gonna be, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu facility, but also strength and conditioning and MMA. I'm restarting my MMA program. Started a management company with that as well. So it's everything in-house, right? We have your striking, your strength and conditioning, your wrestling, your jiu-jitsu, and your management all under one roof.
Excellent. That's such a strong thing to have because I don't like the mentality where people are going to like 4 or 5 different places to train because one, that's a lot of commuting. Yeah. For me as a fighter, I find that annoying.
Yeah.
And two is you're getting different influences and people pulling you in different directions. Like one, if you go to the guy who's just a striking coach, he's going to tell you strike all the time. And then you go to the grappler coach, oh, you should be grappling more than anything. So like you have competing influences.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who's the MMA coach who understands how all these different things gel, what your game is, and how to make it work.
Exactly like make your words my own. And my vision for this, Dave, actually came from my frustrations as an MMA fighter. Because being in Vegas, I did exactly that. I went to 3-4 different gyms for my camps, and I realized that A, I didn't have a head coach. I was putting my own camps together, which is crazy when you think about it. B, my coaches didn't even talk to each other until the day of the fight. Sometimes they didn't even know each other. So there's no communication going on. They're all like overtraining me, and like they think that I'm out of shape because I'm gassed out. So what do? Push me harder. There's zero communication. I don't want to be the little bitch that goes, I'm tired. So what do? Push through, right? And then and there's so many problems with this mentality. The other thing is, it's just this me mentality doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like you look at the camps that are run like that, and it's like guys will fight on Saturday and they took 2 months off, 3 months off. Well, what about the people that help you train? They don't need help. So my mentality is we're a team. Like in MMA, this is our new model. Our MMA is, or BJJ for that matter, is a team sport. Yes. I need you. You need me. Like we're a team, man. Like we're like a family. If I fight on Saturday, I take Sunday off. And unless I'm injured, you're back in the gym on Monday. And if not to spar, to train hard, at least to support your teammates. You know what I'm saying? Like sure. I want to create that kind of culture. Collegiate wrestling is like that. Professional teams are like that. BJJ is like that. MMA, for some reason, has gotten this whole new direction where people just go, I'm going to go wherever I want, whenever I want. I'm going to run my own camp. I don't have to listen to the coach. And like all these problems that are created from that, like the fighter doesn't always realize he's harming his own career, right? Because it turns into a bidding war too. I want a coach that's going to hold paths for less money. So they don't always end up with the best coaches. They end up with the guy who's a yes man and is cheap.
Yeah.
Which is insane when you think about it. Like we're talking like millions of dollars here, UFC championship, and you're going to save money on the guy who's going to hold paths for you, right? So that's kind of my vision. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, no, I think I've had this happen with me with one of my fighters. That a lot of people, especially early on, they were looking at boxing as like the model. Like I want to be a Mayweather, where the camp is solely around me, right? But boxing is very different than MMA. I mean, one, you could conceivably train a boxer by himself. Pad work, heavy bags. And every so often you bring someone in to spar, but you don't really need a team for that. You know what I'm saying? Because you could do most of your boxing work solo or with the coach.
Yeah.
You only need a guy for sparring rounds.
Yeah.
And generally with boxing, they fly people in or they pay people. You're going to be the sparring partner for so and so, but they're not necessarily part of the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that model is very different than a sport like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or MMA, where you do need people to partner up with because you need people to drill takedowns or drill submissions and to practice all this stuff. You can't do that on your own, not effectively. So I think that model is very different, and there's just so much more to learn in MMA. In boxing, a lot of it is just fine-tuning.
Because you can have one coach in boxing.
Yeah,
in MMA you can't. Maybe two, like strength conditioning and boxing,
Yeah. And a lot of old school boxers didn't even do strength conditioning. They just boxed.
Boxed.
Yeah. Like they would tell you lifting weights will make you tight or slow.
There's some truth to that too.
There's some truth to that, yeah. So MMA is just very, I feel like know we've said this before. This is the most complicated sport because there's so many variables and so many ways to win. But anyhow, with MMA and coaching, I come to mind Diego Sanchez. It was Ultimate Fight Night 167, the UFC. And he had a very interesting fight outcome where, it's a spoiler alert, he was fighting Michel Pereira. Mitchell was pretty much handing it to him, the whole fight. Third round, gets him in a clinch, tight clinch, knees the hell out of him, and one of the knees strikes him to the body, drops Diego, and then Mitchell threw a follow-up knee that landed right on Diego's head. Diego dropped it a little bit. The ref immediately jumped in, stopped it, called it as an illegal blow, and Diego popped up. You could see a cut had formed, and they started checking him out, and after a few minutes, they called off the fight, and since it was an illegal blow, DQ win for Diego. Now, a lot of fans got really upset at that because they felt like, oh, this was a really cheap way out to win the fight. You know what I mean? Because nobody can really know for certain how Diego was feeling, right? Because it's a head injury. You don't know if he was still in there or not. I think, I could be wrong, I think what they had said was he was having problems seeing. And whenever you give a vision problem to the doctor,
they're not going to
that's the easy way out of a fight. If you want to get out of a fight and then you say you can't see, they're going to stop it immediately. So whether that was true or not, who knows? Only Diego could really respond to that. But there was people saying, oh, he's a pussy, he doesn't have warrior spirit, and this and that. And other people say, hey, he's smart. It was a business decision. He just doubled his money. You know what I mean?
There's a conflict of interest between the crowd and the fighter, or the promoters of the fighter. Because, sometimes a fighter really only gives a shit about the show and then not care about the money and the victory. I think those are the minority. Like, there's like 1% of cases of fights, right? Because that might change throughout your career too. Maybe in the beginning you were more looking at I just want to put on a show for the fans.
Yeah.
Right? Not really looking at how much money you're going to be making. I think later in your career, like maybe where Diego is now, he's going, I got a family to feed, So, him a victory makes a big difference. It's not the same. We're not talking about $1,000 difference here, right? So, whereas the fans just want to see a show, Diego might be looking in his own best interest, which is rational. It's not irrational. He looks to do what's best for himself. As a fighter, understand if indeed that is the case, and he could have continued. I'm assuming that he could have. I don't know. I don't think he did the wrong thing. I probably would have done the same thing. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's easy to judge. And I understand why the fans would be upset because they don't want to see a bloodbath no matter what.
Yeah.
Where Diego's got his own interest. He's fought a ton. Diego's got nothing to prove. He's put on how many shows? How many times has he put on a spectacle to the audience?
Yeah.
That guy's a warrior, man. He's a trooper. So many times that guy was out there and he was putting it down, right? Doing his best. And now at the end of his career, he's still got to be doing that with a split eye. I don't blame the guy at all. I think in his shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Maybe Diego of 15 years ago would have done something different, right? But I think the fans got to be understanding of, what's on the line for someone like him.
Yeah, it's tough. I see it all because there's three things that could be said. One, he didn't show warrior spirit, by taking the easy way out. Two, he did it because it was a good business decision. And three, maybe he just didn't want to get hurt anymore. Yeah. And that was a good way because he was probably going to get finished in that barrage. Yeah. I think they're all true.
They're not mutually exclusive, exactly.
Right. From the financial angle, absolutely makes sense. I think someone like Diego, who's been with the UFC for, over 15 years probably, I think, right?
He's been Ultimate Fighter, first one. So
the first one, he's been.
We're talking 15 years.
Yeah. So, his win purse is probably at least 40,000, 50,000 at least. So
it's a big difference.
It's a big difference for depending on his economic situation, but that's serious money. And then two, he was getting hurt, and like you said, Diego has been in a ton of wars before. Famously, he's got that Mexican chin, I guess, right? At the doors because he's taken a lot of punishment. And he was hanging in there. On the warrior side of things, I that's where I have a problem with it, right? Because
you have your spirit. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I'm the same. You die in there before you quit. Correct. That's the mindset.
I always I classify. There's three classifications for people in athletics. I feel there's the sportsman, who is someone just does it for fun, and the moment they get tired, they're done, right? You have the athlete, who is someone who does it professionally, and even when they get tired, they push past it. But if they're getting injured, they pull out.
Mm.
And then you have the warrior who does it for a life, and you have to kill him before the fight's over.
Yeah.
Right. So
there's meaning. It goes well beyond just I'm getting a workout or I'm getting paid. It's like his spirit is invested in what he's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I see there are a lot of athletes in the sport today, a lot of athletes, and there's a few warriors. I've on previous performances from Diego, I would definitely say he was a warrior. Right. He was just someone who just let it hang out and go. This one, it would jump into the athlete rank, right? Because again, I'm assuming he could continue, right?
Yeah.
Just for the argument's sake, if he could have continued, then he did kind of take the easier way out. But then again, there is a conflict. Like that was probably the only path that Diego could have won the fight. So in the end result, what's the goal of a fight? Is to win. So maybe this was the shot that you had to hang out long enough in the fight to get this type of thing to happen, so that you could win.
Here's the thing: there's a season for everything, man. I think, I think life is about an evolution of thought and priorities, and I don't think the way I did when I was 20.
Sure.
I think that being as competitive as I was on the mats was fundamental for my own career, right? So the Diego today, he is, in my view, he is completely excused for having a different view on things in life. He might be looking for his health. Like, you know what? I don't want to be blind. I got like another maybe 2 more years fighting, maybe, right? And I don't want to be blind for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like these things, when you're young, you're reckless. Think about the stupid shit you did when you're 18. With maturity, when you become more aware of yourself, you lose some courage, I think. You're definitely more brave when you're younger because you can be reckless and you have that spirit, that ambition, and I think age makes you less of that, right? In my view, Diego is perfectly excused. I think that, let's say he could have continued. When he was in his 20s, he probably would have died out there. But now with kids, alive, bills to pay, he's looking at, like, he wants to retire with a win. I don't know, man. Like, you're looking at all these other things, and I think he's excused, and if that is the case. But I understand where the crowd's coming from.
Yeah, that's another thing that we didn't touch on either, is that it's never fair to the fouled fighter, right? Like, if I kick you full blast in the nuts, and then, you got 5 minutes to recover, I don't care if you got 10 minutes. You're not going to be the same guy before I kicked you in the nuts.
Oh.
It takes a little bit out of you. Like, I've had this firsthand where I actually was sparring. This guy was a kickboxer, and I was just starting off in MMA, and he was beating me up, just tagging me all over the place. And I was trying to throw an inside leg kick, caught him right in the nuts. Oh. Boom, accident. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I was like, oh, okay. And then he manned up and kept sparring. After that happened, I was destroying him. I was just running circles around him. Oh. Like, man, what a difference this foul made, because he was just tagging me everywhere, and now all of a sudden I'm running circles around this guy. Yeah. He lost his mobility, because it was unfortunately, it was a really bad nut shot.
I think there's a fear factor. You actually have, I think there's more, there might be psychological to some extent. Like, the guy is like terrified of, that's still bothering him, like psychologically throws him off a little bit. Yeah,
but with all fouls, it's similar. Like, if you get eye gouged, it's not going to be the same as you were before. Yeah. Like, first of all, the eye gouge is extremely painful.
And you get away with it once, which is crazy when you think about it. You get away with poking people in the eye. Once you can do it. It's like when people hold on to the fence. I've always hated that rule. He doesn't know he can't hold on to the fence. Yeah. They get away with it once, right? The first time it's like a slap on the hand. They don't.
Sometimes they can get away with it more. I mean,
to me, it's like the first. You know the rules. You're not stupid. Why can you get away with it once?
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
They know they can't, but they always get away with it. You're right. At least once, sometimes the whole fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at John Jones, he's notorious
for poking people in the eye.
For poking, because he always has his hands out like this,
It's not like he's not tall enough, too. Like, what the, he's like the tallest person in the division. He's like poking people in the eye to makes himself, and his arms are super long, too, right?
Yeah. So he's making himself range, yeah.
You know how much an advantage that is naturally without sticking your fingers out there?
Yeah.
But I think he was getting away with it for so long that, I'll keep doing it until someone tells me to stop.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that regard, coming back into the fight after a foul is never really fair, but it's always expected, right? And like, when you do see the rare times where a fighter does quit from a foul, everybody blames that guy.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, hey, I'm the one that got wronged. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was one time where in the UFC a guy got blasted in nuts, like super hard, and he couldn't continue.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, he's a coward. Like, man, if you've never been hit that hard before, I have, because I've been on both sides of this.
Yes.
And man, I couldn't stand up. I could not stand up for like 10 minutes. I was trying to, and I couldn't. Because when you get hit hard there, I don't know what happens with the nerve ending and whatnot, but it just shuts you down.
Yeah.
So like, it's a legitimate thing. So the only thing you have to question is whether he actually did receive it, or is he playing, like he's doing the soccer thing where he's like, oh, I'm hurt, just so I can get the easy way out.
Why is it always soccer players that do
God, I don't know.
Isn't it? It's like always the soccer players.
It's infuriating to me. Like, I've seen, like, they do clips where the guy will go like this, and the guy will just drop, and like, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Amazing acting. It's incredible.
Yeah, but
well, you know what it is too? Like, it's a back cup too with a nut shot. Like, I think a metal cup fighters, professional fighters, get a metal cup. Like the Thai ones, like those will protect you, right? The plastic ones bend, man. Like, I don't want anyone to trust plastic. I don't. I never did. I always fought with a metal cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also the sizing and placing.
Well, that's the thing.
Because sometimes the cup could actually clip into you, and then it's just the same thing as getting hit.
It's the pressure of the cup on you. But you got to get, like, I had, like, the biggest cup possible. Not because my junk is huge, man. Like, it's
humble brag, yeah.
But, like, I wanted the space, because after that, it gets pushed into your shit. Like, I don't know, man. I want the room in there, man. Yeah. So it was like a big cup, but it's like, hey, I'm protected,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I never understood fighters who like didn't use cups, because it's also a good leverage point. Like your
arm bars and triangles, it's gold. It's illegal in IBJJF. If you know that, you can't wear a cup, even a plastic one. Yeah, you're not allowed to because of that. It's a huge advantage.
And if you ever had someone take your back body triangle with the cup, it's a nightmare on your lower back. So I would always use it if I could.
Let me ask you this, man. I just remember this. Like, we're talking about, like, the penalty when you do something illegal, right? The guy got DQ'd because he kneed Diego on the ground. Fair enough. This happened in a fight a few years ago. I was cornering someone, and her opponent threw a kick at her, and it scraped the top of her head, like the hair. It touched the hair, right? And she did the soccer thing. She acted like she was, because, you have to have the right angle to see. Depending on where you were standing, it looked like she got kicked on the ground. Yeah. And then once the replay came out, you could see that she was pretending she was never hit, and nothing happened. I'm of the opinion that you should still take a point, even though she was never hit. I'll tell you why. She tried. She just missed the kick. Just because she missed the kick, I don't know what you think. Maybe I'm out there, but like I'm just thinking, because at the time I'm thinking, well, if you try to rob a bank and you fail, do you not go to prison?
Yeah, it is a good
point.
You
know what I'm saying? Like, if I try to kill you and I fail, am I innocent? Well, you didn't kill him, so you're okay. Like, if I try to do something illegal, well, then you still got to be penalized. Maybe not a DQ in this case, but a -1, take a point away. I don't know. I think that maybe a penalty for the other one for faking it too. I think of this shit like in soccer, when they pull that shit off. I think that if the replay comes and you're pretending, right, it's difficult to judge, because sometimes, like, some of it is obvious, right? But other situations, there might be some gray area. I can see why it would be a difficult rule to implement. But I'm of the opinion you should penalize a person who's pretending as well, because you're trying to play tricks on the ref. You're trying to make the sport difficult to judge. That's what you're doing. So you're getting in the way of sportsmanship, right? If you're doing that, I understand a penalty. It makes perfect sense. In the MMA case, I know it sounds crazy. She was never hit. Why should she get penalized? I think both of them should receive like a -1.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the intent, you would have to be able to judge intent, whether it was an accident. Because, sometimes when people are striking, guy gets dropped, and you're like, oh, wait, but I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
so much gray area.
Yeah, it's a lot of gray area versus somebody who, like, saw the guy and then maliciously. Like, I've seen this in sparring. I saw a guy soccer kick somebody. Like, he sprawled the guy out and then soccer kicked him and knocked him out. Yeah. I was like, what the hell, man? Because I'm sorry, I just got into it. I got into what? You think this is a street fight now? Like,
I can see that. It's like Rosimar Poliati. Like, he can't stop himself from blowing people's knees, man.
Yeah, so like that type of thing is obviously it was a foul. But sometimes like this one, I could, like with the Diego or Mitchell, I could see it like accidental, because he threw like 4 or 5 knees in a row and then dropped and he threw another knee. It's like, it's hard to blame him, because you're firing and then it just happened, right? But if it was a case where the guy was down for a while and then you fired it, yeah. And then if he missed, but like he threw it anyways, then you could say, man, why were you trying to do that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think the faking definitely. I think if anything, the faking can be worse sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a fake rape allegation.
Yeah, because like, you have to
yeah.
send the point of punishment is not, you can't go back in time. What's the point of punishment?
Yeah.
You have to think of punishment. What is the point of you doing something? If I murder someone, I go to prison. Me going to prison does not bring anyone back to life. It might make the family feel a little bit better, but it's not going to ease the pain so much. It might feel, okay, I got the revenge at least. He's going to like rot in prison now, for example. But I think the real point of punishment is sending a message to other people. Don't do that. This is what's going to happen when you break the rules, right? And I think that really is the message. So, when someone does something illegal in a fight and they receive, like John Jones got away with poking people in the eye for so long, it's messages to everyone else. Oh, shit. Oh, I can do that? Okay. Oh, I can do it once every fight?
Yeah.
Right? I hold the fence. Okay, so this guy can't take you down. Don't let him take you down. You can hold on to the fence, but only once, okay? That's the message you're sending unless you penalize people right away.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that the UFC should be harsh on these things. It doesn't happen very often. People get away with a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, they do.
Like, people complain about jiu-jitsu and penalties. I'm like, oh, shit, watch the UFC. like jiu-jitsu, there's penalties like left, right, and center, man.
Yeah,
Like
I'll
one
tell
per
you,
match.
with the cage grabbing, I've trained in the cage. In my gym, we pretty much had it from day one. I've never grabbed that thing.
Same thing with me. It's never even occurred to me.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, I push off of it.
Yeah.
I've never grabbed it. Like, it doesn't come to me. I don't know why. Like, but you see people grab it all the time. To me, it's like because it's going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because,
it's not good technique. Let's put it that way.
There's
There's a way to stop a takedown.
Yeah. I mean, the whole intent behind it originally was that you could hurt yourself, right? Because if you're grabbing and you get yanked one way, you could break a finger or a toe or whatnot. But, so, I mean, that's pretty much why I wouldn't want to do it. But it's also kind of lame in the fight world, Yeah. You have someone holding on.
I know. I mean, or you legalize and okay, it's okay to hold the fence. It's like one of those things. You either accept it, or you say it's absolutely you can't do it, and you don't get away with it once. That happened in one of my fights. It drove me crazy. Like, why does he get away with it once?
Yeah.
I'm like, he knows he can't do it. It's not like MMA rules are super complicated. This is the other one. Right before a fight, what do the judges do every single time? They walk you through the rules, right? To me, it's almost like, pro. It's like, imagine a football game. And before every game, the referee has to walk in your locker room with the whole team. All right, guys, so the goal here is to get a touchdown, all right? They're professionals, man. They've been doing this their whole life. If they don't know the rules, they shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah, I understand like an amateur circuit.
But a professional. Or like
low-level pro,
dude,
but you're in the UFC.
UFC championship round, man. I've been there, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a championship fight. You don't think the guy knows the rule? Like, of course he knows. And if he doesn't, there's something wrong with his camp, right? Like, they should know it inside out. But to me, holding the fence is absolutely unacceptable, man. Like, and they know it, and they get away with it. So... commissions to me, like, I say this a lot. I don't think they think this stuff through. Like, this is the problem with having commissioners that don't have experience fighting. Like, they don't put thought into anything. Amateur fights here in Vegas, leg locks are illegal.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that? Like, you can shin someone in the eye, fine, but leg locks are dangerous. I'm like, where do you guys get these things from? Like, I don't know, like, who's coming up with these rules? I remember one time, like, tape was bad because tape could cut your opponent's eye. Like, what? That was literally what the commissioner... I asked him, why can't I was taping my ankle, right? I had a bad ankle.
Yeah.
And, because the tape can cut someone's eye. And I'm like, what? How? Like, I'm trying to make sense of what the point is. And I don't think they think... They're talking about safety and fairness, but they don't always think things through. It is very... limited amount of thought that goes into these things, and because they don't have a background in fighting, it's even worse. I think if you put a bunch of fighters to sit there and come up with rules, and this is true for IBJJF, it's true for commissions, for the UFC, everything, that would be the best route. You come up with the best rules if you had those people making the decision, right? Versus bringing a bunch of attorneys and letting them figure things out.
Yeah.
For some reason, people think that attorneys are qualified to do everything. You ever notice that? Like, they're good for, like, no, there's some things they're not qualified to talk about. But people always think that, like, if there's a position there that no one knows exactly who should be doing that position, I'll get an attorney to do it. Like, I've seen that so many times. The commission is always like that. If you see, like, the board of it's all attorneys, which to me is fucking weird. But
yeah, I mean, boxing commissions, I guess the athletic commission for MMA or whatever they're called now. It used to be boxing commissions, but I think now they make their own separate MMA one. But they're always questionable. Like in this past UFC, they had a bunch of judging snafus. I guess this was in Texas, and one of the fights was Trevin Giles versus James Krause, and the judge was a black belt of the coach of Trevin Giles.
The judge was about okay, got it.
So the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
There. And apparently one of the rounds that all the other judges scored for Krause,
Yeah.
this guy scored for Giles.
Yeah.
And he also was the one that had weird scoring in the John Jones fight, where he had John Jones winning all 4 rounds. And when most people saw it 3-2.
The last fight.
Yeah, his last fight where he fought that. So it's like a questionable call. Like, but first of all, this guy, I know when you would file that paperwork, you would have to file any conflicts of interest. Like if you knew any of the fighters or any of the judges, or you had a personal relationship with them, because you would have to disclose that. So this guy clearly didn't do that. It doesn't make sense. If the coach of the guy that you're going to be judging was your own coach and gave you your black belt, that's a major conflict of interest, right? Because you can argue, oh, you're going to side with him now because he's your guy.
Yeah. It is a problem to bring former coaches and fighters, because I see what you're saying. Like you get a guy. I mean, that happens. IBJJF, that happens all the time. You get a guy, but like, is there a solution to that problem? Because I think the idea behind the commission not bringing any fighters in is exactly that. There's no conflict of interest. My whole take on it is like, okay, you got to have someone that at least has martial arts experience, the very least.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough people out there now. I mean, like, well, we only brought 3 judges here. They bring. I'm assuming. I think they have more than 3 judges, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Because actually, I've judged an event, and I was one of 3 judges. You know, they didn't have backup judges, if you will.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, you can rotate them. Yeah.
I would think you would just rotate them. Have they rotate referees. They can rotate judges. You know.
And it's not like they can't.
As a judge, you would welcome it, because judging is kind of stressful, because I've done it before. It wears on you a bit. First of all, on a long night, you're watching like 15 fights.
It's hard to stay sharp the whole time.
You're there for hours, and sometimes
it's really a good idea, man.
You're getting worn out. Like I've run Nagas and I've reffed and stuff. Man, if you've seen that ref and he's there the whole day, bro, you should shake his hand. That guy's a hero, man.
He's a hero. It's super hard.
It's super hard.
They don't judges, referees. They don't get credit for it. But
you're right. A good ref, mind you, because especially when you're doing grappling events. When I was reffing, I don't want anybody getting hurt. Yeah. I also had a financial interest because I was running the event.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal. So I'm not like a hero so much, but I didn't want anybody getting hurt. Right? So like every match is when a submission happened, I'm like Spidey sense. I'm like trying to get on there, make sure that they're safe, and you don't want to stop it early because then people get pissed. So it's like a very delicate balance, you know.
I've reffed before, and it was a horrible experience because you don't get paid that well. But as long as it's exhausting to be standing there the whole time. Now they have like little breaks, right, which is smart. Like IBJJF feeds them. Like they get an hour on, an hour off. Yeah. So you can go to the ref room. They have food there, drink coffee, some sweets. Sugar actually makes you sharp, right? Coffee does too. But it's exhausting, man. And I remember like reffing matches, and I got ADD as is. Imagine like 6-7 hours of reffing nonstop. What is going to happen? Yeah, you're thinking about, your mind's gone, man. Yeah. You're thinking about, like, you see something like, oh, yeah, that person over there. You start remembering. And next, oh, shit, there's a Berimbolo going on here. And you're lost now because, like, especially in the lightweight division, you can't blink. Yeah. And you don't know what's. If you blink, man, you lost them. They're so fast. There's so much going on, right? The little guys. Heavier weights, a little bit easier to ref. Although it's kind of changing. Sometimes the heavier weights are more exciting to watch these days. It's super hard, man. Like I always tell people this: go easy on refs, man. It's easy to get angry at them. You think everyone's they're all screwing me. I think that happens like in 0.001% of cases where they intentionally screw you. Yeah. I think honest mistakes happen a lot. They just got distracted. That happens a lot. I don't think it's any like, oh, it's because of this country or this gym or my friend. I think most referees, like almost all of them, are honest people, man. They don't have any intentions of screwing anyone. It's just that if they're doing it for too long, or if they're not properly trained, which is another big one, especially IBJJF rules, they're very complex. Yeah. They're not. I've lost count how many referee courses I've done. I'm one of the most knowledgeable people in that regard. You know, sometimes I'm confused too. I'm like, I'm not sure what I would have done there. You know, there's a lot of gray area, and you know the rules change a lot too. Like I think you gotta put things in perspective and go easy on the judges, on the refs. It's not an easy sport. I think your idea for MMA, rotating them every fight, is brilliant. That's a fucking great idea, Dave. Like, I hope that someone from the commission is watching this now, and because that's a great suggestion. Like, they should be rotating every couple of fights.
If they're, I mean, they might be doing that right now. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. They could be doing that.
They might be doing that, but if they're not, they should be, because I've been on both sides of it. Yeah, it's fatiguing, especially there, because if you're watching MMA fights, man, like most people don't even start showing up until like two fights into the main event, because they don't want to stand and watch 12 fights. You know, so I can only imagine the judge who they have to watch every single fight, and not just watch casually. They have to be paying attention. You know,
when I commentate, and I've done like up to 7 hours now. So I think I've done 8 hours one time, nonstop, right? Man, it fucks me up. I can't sleep that night because I drink so much coffee throughout the stream. I'm serious. Like I'm like, it's a coffee after coffee. I have to, and it's the only way out of it. I was trying to eat something sweet to stay sharp, because it's similar in a lot of ways, commentating and refereeing, because you have to be focused. It's easy when you're watching UFC at home, and even no matter how interested you are in the fight, you get distracted. You can go to the bathroom. You can bullshit with your friend. You can check your phone, right? There's a number of different things happening that give your mind a little break, right? When you're commentating, when you're refereeing, you don't get those breaks. You have to be focused all the time. So, and there's like studies on this, man. Like judges, like court judges, at the end of the day, they're more likely to make mistakes. If they've been doing it for a long time, towards the end, they're far more likely to make mistakes because they're exhausted.
Yeah, for sure. You know, people don't realize, but being exhausted not only impairs you physically, but if anything, more so mentally. You know?
Teaching class?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's easy to teach class. Oh, you only teach 4 classes a day. I'm like, you have any idea how hard it is to teach 4 classes a day? Mentally?
Yeah.
Physically, it's not hard. Mentally? Because you're focused. When you're teaching class, you're immersed in the class. You can't get distracted. There's always someone doing something wrong. You got to be correcting them all the time. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, and I guess a caveat to everything we've been talking about here is someone doing a good job, mind you, right? Yeah. There are people like the old adage of the instructor sitting down, like on his phone, not paying attention. Obviously, that guy's not really doing a good job, not trying. I think someone had said that one of the judges was on their phone during the fight, which is like, yo.
Oh, fuck, man.
You see, then there's no excuse for that, right? You're being an asshole. You're not doing your job, right?
Even if it's slow, there's no excuse. Slow, it doesn't matter.
Excuse. You can't pull out your phone. You know, you have
millions
to be
of dollars
focused.
on the line, and this guy's on his phone. I know.
But I mean, if you're doing a good job, it's exhausting. And teaching, for sure. I remember when my brother and I opened our gym, me and him were the only instructors. And we were going to school full time, 15 credits, and then we'd come teach 3 or 4 classes.
Wow.
And then we'd be...
That's a lot.
It's exhausting, you know?
Yeah.
I remember people like...
And managing the gym.
Because
that's a whole job in itself.
And then we were flying to compete. And so, I mean, you know the grind. It's the same thing, right? And I remember people like, oh, I love the college lifestyle. I'm like, man, the college lifestyle sucks.
It's fun if your parents are paying for everything and all you do is, okay, you're taking 15 credits, but that's all you do. That takes half your day studying, man. Just between school and everything, like you're left with like not that much time if you're doing everything right, you know. Yeah. But it could be a lot. But yeah, it's still fun because at the end of the day, you can still go out and party, go crazy. You know, you show up hungover to class and whatever, you can wing it, you know. But when you're running a gym, man, and teaching class and going to school, I got lucky because I had tons of help. I don't know how hard it was. But for me, I remember that period when I was doing those things. I had so much help from my ex. I had back in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Like college only did like, it was like, Brazil doesn't go by credits, it goes by hours. So it was like 3 hours a day, just not that much. And then I was driving São Paulo to train. The crazy thing is when you're younger, like we're talking about that fury, right? When you're younger, you have that war. I think the warrior spirit is, it changes as you get older. Because I still have ambition, but it's a different kind of ambition. Not just financial, but in personal growth. That's my ambition today. But at that time, it didn't matter what the price was, too. It was just one of those things.
You're willing to pay it.
You don't even question it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's not even a question of like, oh, this is costing me a lot. It doesn't occur to you.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I was and I forgot, I was living in Fort Lauderdale at the time. So my brother and I were driving. It was like 45 minutes each way.
Yeah.
You know, so we'd go to school, come back, go to the gym, come back. So we lived 45 minutes from school and from the gym. So we were doing a lot of driving around as well, but like it wasn't never made a big deal.
It doesn't, you know, thanks to like today, like tolls in Brazil are super expensive. I remember the shit now and I'm like, fuck, what was I thinking? They're really expensive. They're not cheap. And gas in Brazil is the equivalent of like $7, $8 a gallon here, if you do the math. It's super expensive. And I used to drive to Sao Paulo every day to train, right? And 100% of what I made, Dave, I wasn't a lot, I didn't make that much, but 100% of what I made was between gas, tolls, and food and tournaments. I had zero left. It was like one. Now I live with my mom, so I was lucky and didn't have to pay rent, right? But 100% of what I made went into my training. It never occurred to me that was like, I was just like spending way too much money on jiu-jitsu. It never, now I'm looking back and I'm like, fuck, if I had to spend 100% of what I make on the one thing, I'm like, I'll be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I do that today. I don't know. But when you're 16, 17, you have that. And that's a beautiful place to be, man, because nothing else matters.
Yeah, when you have that burning desire, that passion, that you're willing to pour everything into something, regardless of, like you said, of the cost. Like, you know, like, I want this. Doesn't matter what I would have to give to get it. I'm willing to give it, you know? But as you said, as you get older, you start learning things, and sometimes knowing things limits you, right? And I was actually listening, Rashad Evans was talking about this, because he was talking about how John Jones, when he started off fighting, that he was doing all sorts of crazy ass stuff. Like he fought Shogun and opened the fight for the title, the flying knee at like 23, you know? And he does all this weird stuff. But now, like, it's, as you get older, it starts to limit you because you realize I can get hurt.
Yeah.
You know? And I can't afford to be hurt. You know, and as you get older, the recovery is longer, so the consequences are steeper. Yeah. So you have to start protecting yourself a little bit more. So I think that's part of it. You know, when you're younger, you don't really know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay,
you've never been hurt that bad.
You've never been hurt that bad. You've never been broke or whatever. So like, oh, I can do all these things. You know, there's no risk, and I think you need to have that in order to take those bold chances. Because if you knew all the risks and understood what the implications were, you probably wouldn't do anything. You're like, it's too dangerous, too risky. I
think it was a Shakespeare wrote that goes, consciousness makes cowards of us all. The more aware you become of life, the more strategical you become, the more you think things ahead of time, the more of a coward you become in some ways. Yeah. You lose that bravery. You know, I go on trips now, I plan. Can you fucking believe that? I plan shit now. First time I went to Europe, I had a ticket. I fucking went, man. I didn't know. Like, oh, I got those jiu-jitsu guys over there. I'm good. I got some money in my pocket. Those jiu-jitsu guys, and that was it. Like now, I'm timing. I find myself. I got a schedule now. Can you believe that? Yeah. Like age does it. It makes you more aware, right? It makes you more strategical in the sense of how you live your life, and that's it's responsibility. That's how things should be. It's a progression. But there's something about being reckless that makes your spirit more alive as well. Like some of my best memories were me winging it without a plan. For sure. Like backpacking through Mexico. No idea where I was going. Barely spoke Spanish. No idea what I was doing. Hitchhiking. Was it dangerous? Probably. Didn't care. You know, you do stuff like that, but those are my best memories too. Like some of my best memories in life were me like not really, you know. I'll give you an example. You get older, you go on vacation, you plan shit. Yeah. Right? Like I do that now. Like it was so much better when I didn't plan. I feel like
my
it was
girlfriend
more
hires what do you call it, those travel agents to plan it for you. So professional planner.
Okay, but the thing, you do more. You see more that way. It probably save money too. But at the same time, like there's something like you lose some of the adventure. I feel like when we do that, because when I didn't plan at all, that's when I had those adventures. Like the first time I went to Japan, I got lost in Tokyo. By the way, like there's no one speaks English. There's no sign. Like we're in a fucking different world there, man. It's not. You know, you go to Europe, everyone speaks English. I feel like you get by with you can kind of get by. The language is similar. Japan, it's not like I got lost. Man, I had some incredible experience just getting lost. Just lost in Japan. Got lost in the forest. Got lost downtown. I almost had to sleep in the forest. It's fucking scary.
In Japan?
Oh, in Kamakura, man. There's like where that giant bronze Buddha is, Daibutsu. And I was there backpacking, you know, just doing my thing, you know, walking around. Oh, cool, man. I saw like I didn't understand how big it was, right? Yeah. So I go into it. And the signs are all Japanese. It's like maybe 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So I'm going to walk around. I see some temples. I'm taking pictures, whatever. Next thing you know, it starts getting dark. And it's cold. It's winter. Right? And I'm thinking, oh, about time for me to get out of here. And that's where I realized, I have no fucking idea where I am. Like, I don't know how to go back. And I don't read Japanese. I know like 4 kanjis. Like Jitsu, Do from judo. And I happen to know a 4th kanji, which is exit. Right? And I walk around. This is like, it's nighttime now. I have no water. I have no food. It's getting cold, right? And I can't find my way out of this forest. I finally find a sign for the exit kanji. And that's like, I only know 4 kanjis, legit. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I was lost in maybe 2-3 hours walking around. No idea. At the time, I was freaking out. But now it's like, she's a really cool story, man.
Yeah, got out.
You know, but little stuff like that. Like, so, you know, your warrior spirit, there's a time for your warrior spirit. I'm not sure I'm willing to get lost in the forest these days. I like to know where I'm at and where I'm going to be tomorrow morning, you know.
I think getting lost in the forest in Japan is probably better than being lost in the forest in Brazil, right? A lot more.
No, 100%. Because it was more like a park, really. I'm exaggerating. It wasn't a forest. It was more like a park, but it was pretty big, man. I didn't know where I was, and I couldn't find my way out. Or getting kidnapped in Mexico.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
Hitchhiking with strangers, probably not the wisest thing to do. But
I would to double down on your point there, that exploration, I think everybody has it in them, that it does really awaken something in you when you're doing, especially when you're doing something uncharted. Like, I never like doing, like we do sometimes, or we'll do like an excursion, you know, when we're vacationing and there's a guide. I always prefer just being me.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there's something primal in exploration.
Yes, right? Yes, it's primal.
I think because we had to explore to find new resources and whatnot, it brings a new heightened awareness.
It's exciting.
Right? It's very exciting.
Because you don't know what's ahead.
And I think that's the whole point, is your body's getting ready for anything, right? Because maybe there's a predator, or maybe there's a prey animal that you have to eat, or so you have to have your game on, and all your senses are awakened, and you hear everything, and you can see things.
Very good point. I never thought of it that way.
So I think that's what makes exploration so fun.
Yeah.
Right? When you're doing stuff on like a safe trail that's been pre-done,
there's no excitement.
There's no excitement because you know, okay, we're going to see this over here. We're going to see that over there. Okay, cool. But I could see it in a picture. But if you see that same thing, but you discovered it on your own, it's like a totally different experience.
It's totally different. That's exactly that. Man, I was thinking that. You expressed it better than I did. I was getting excited when I would find these little treasures. I found this one place in Tokyo, and it was like, it looked like a normal house, but the guy turned it kind of like a jungle gym, and it was open to the public. It was weird. It was a big house in the middle of the city, right? And it had like a slide, and it had like all these like mirrors, like you could like kind of like a theme park would have. Okay. Yeah, and it was all open. There's no one charged. It was like some rich guy probably just left it there for people to hang out, and it was like some really cool shit there. And it was such like a treasure, you know, like I wasn't expecting to see this. And I hung out there for maybe an hour, you know, took some pictures. But it was so much more exciting had I seen that on Wikipedia, I found it on Google, and planned it all day to be there. I would have been disappointed.
Yeah.
Had I been there planning, I would have been disappointed, right? Because there's nothing that special. But because I found it randomly, because I was walking around, no idea where I was going, it was such a pleasant surprise. I gotta go back to doing that, man. Like, you just gave me some idea. I have to go back to explore. I'm not gonna plan my trips anymore. I just want to go back to old school. It's so much more fun.
You gotta mix things up a bit, right? Yeah. I think there's some things you should always plan, and then some things just wing it. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't go quite to plan. I know, like in my last trip, we went to French Polynesia. We went to Morea, and they had said, beforehand, me and Jamie were like, okay, we're gonna go to this thing and then this thing, and then we rented a car, and then, hey, why don't we just do something random in the car? And I saw, there's a waterfall. I'm like, okay, let's do the waterfall. And as we're going there, the road gets really sketchy, right? It goes from concrete, asphalt, then like chunks.
You're far from civilization.
And rock, and we're driving on a car that's not meant to do that, right? My girlfriend's like freaking out. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, relax. We've gone this far. Yeah. Might as well go a little further. Yeah. There's kids telling us, don't go. Like, and she's like,
if the locals are telling you not to go, definitely don't.
I'm like, no, we're going. God damn it, we're gonna go. So the car's bumping all over the place, and then we get to there, and there's an old guy stops us, and then it looks really sketchy. He's like, you can't go any further. I'm like, why? This is my land. I'm like, okay. He goes, "You're here to see the waterfall?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Okay, it's over there. You have to pay me whatever. It's not much." And my girlfriend's like, "Let's get out. This is sketchy. There's nobody here, you know." But I'm still stubborn.
That sounds like the beginning of a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. It is. You know, looking back, I'm like, dude, this is stupid. Right? I'm like, I'm going. Goddamn, we're gonna see this waterfall. Okay. So we go, and my girlfriend's furious the whole time because we're walking through. There's no marked trail or anything, and after about like 15 minutes, we get to the waterfall, and it's like a trickle. It's like a little river. It's dried up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a total bust. So then I had to walk back, and I got an earful in the back. "Oh, I told you this is crap." So that adventure.
But here's the thing, though. No, what's the treasure, though? The treasure wasn't the waterfall. What was it? It was a story, man. It was you being terrified, you know, but pushing through. We're gonna see it. We're gonna see it. And I think those are the things I value the most. It's not the actual view, but what you go through to see it. Right, it's the climb. This is the point. We've been over this before, but it is climbing the mountain, and it's not the gold medal. It is not the end result. The end result is always disappointing. I won ADCC. I thought, like, man, when I'll be on cloud 9 for the rest of my life, man. You know, it lasted like 2 days. I was high for 2 days, and I was like, fuck, man, I gotta win the world now. Like, it goes back to you go back to the fault where you normally are. It doesn't matter what house you buy. It doesn't matter what car you drive. It doesn't matter how much money you got in your bank account, how many diplomas you got on your wall. It's, to me, like what I value the most out of my jiu-jitsu journey, or things like my trips, everything, are always like the expectation and the grind to get there. Like that's what those are my best memories. And
for sure,
we should take like your story, man. Perfect example. The waterfalls is disappointing, and if it's incredible. The story to get there is still better than the waterfall itself.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they set their goals to it, and there's a common fallacy of people, I'm going to win the title and it's going to change everything. So you have to think beyond that, right? Because, like you said, that moment it'll go away really quick. You win the title, you got it, that's it, it's gone. What happens afterwards is what's going to be more important, right? As far as like how it's going to change your life. It's like how you leverage that opportunity.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think, I just got to get that and that's it. And, I had this same thing where, might ruffle some people, but like when people talk about going in the afterlife, right? Like, oh, everything, once I get to the afterlife, I'm going to be set.
Yeah, same thing, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but what you're doing there? Right? Like, you never thought
afterlife.
Yeah. You're just not getting there. I'm like, what happens after that?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're going to be doing for eternity. So, I mean, in a more usable scale, like in our life, like you got to figure, okay, I'm going to have a family and kids and that's it. I'm like, no, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
Like,
how are you going to raise them?
How are you going to raise them? Like, there's so many things that go on. Oh, I'm just going to get married and everything's set. Like, no, like, there's a lot that goes on. Like, you're setting your goal on like a little thing and there's way more behind it. You know what I mean? Like, becoming a champion is just one part of the journey. There's a whole other thing afterwards about maintaining it or, using your platform to like, preach or whatever it is you're going to do. But like, you always got to think beyond the first part. But everybody sees the trophy and the medal and they think, oh, that's it. That's all I need. But like, there's a lot more work that goes behind it.
I agree. And it's what we should cherish the most. We shouldn't get carried away with thinking that the reward is the true reward is the journey. It's the grind. It's the hard work. I always say this to my students: the hard work is the reward. It confuses people because we're a civilization that's so obsessed with the end result. More than ever, perhaps. But we can't lose track of the things that are important. And where how important it is and how wise it is, I believe, to live in the moment. I think there's a lot of wisdom. It's not something I mastered, not by any means. I'm not, I probably don't follow my own advice, but living in the moment that's the journey, man. That's the reward right there, is enjoying every second of your life, not be like idealizing a future that will be great. Because that UFC belt, I've never held one, probably would have liked to have one for sure. I'm probably for sure I would have, but I don't think it would have made me happy in the sense that we're talking about. I think it would have been a momentary thing, just like IBJJF or something else,
Absolutely. I mean, we can name tons of people that won things and they end up destitute at the end of their days. And I think the most important thing is not how you start something, but how you finish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of people who win or become legends, but then they kind of whatever happens in life, it doesn't go well, and they start faltering.
You see the Dave Chappelle stand-up comedy he had? I think I think it's Sticks and Bones.
Yeah.
It's great. He kills it. To me, it's like one of the best stand-up comedies of all time. I love Dave Chappelle because not only is he highly intelligent, because he's a comedian, he can say things that we can't. Comedians can speak the truth, and then I'm joking, right? But they can actually. There's a lot of wisdom in what comes out of their mouth because like they're highly intelligent people and they're able to express themselves in a way that most people are not allowed to, right? You would get killed online if you did it. Chappelle, he goes and he's talking about Anthony Bourdain, who committed suicide. Remember that part?
Yeah.
And he goes, this guy was getting paid well, right, to travel the world and meet amazing people and eat amazing food.
Yeah.
Killed himself. And I put things in perspective. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, isn't that true?
Yeah.
Like, wow. Like, you would think that guy had the perfect life, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He was getting paid to travel the world to meet amazing people and eat amazing food. And I almost said, eat amazing people.
That's almost it, bro.
Probably too. Probably had those moments as well. But, where do you go from there? And that's the peak, man. You've experienced life from all these heights, man. You've climbed all these mountains and you've seen the valley from all these different perspectives. And it goes, where does it go from there? And if you can't appreciate the climb itself, and you've created this idealistic, this concept of what happiness is, it's something that doesn't exist. Oh, if it's that mountain, it's that mountain, and you can't find it because you've seen the valley from all these different perspectives. There's nowhere else to go. You have to find joy in what you're doing at the moment, and that's the only answer, right? And it's sad that someone like Anthony Bourdain, took his own life. I don't know what else was going on, but I think that's what it comes down to, man. Like, where do you go from there? You've collected, 3 UFC belts, 2 UFC belts. You got $1 billion in your bank account. Where do you go from there? If you're looking in the wrong places.
Yeah, and I think the whole problem is people have the fallacy of thinking, once I get this, then I've made it, or like I'll have achieved my life's goal and purpose, and they believe that's it. But you can't get happiness or fulfillment from outside, right? Like, I can shower you with money and stuff like that. If you have problems, you will still have problems with the money and the gold medals and the trophies and all that. That doesn't take it away. So. And we've talked about this before. How you said you were in the favelas and you saw some of the happiest people there.
Yeah.
They don't have things, right? But they are content with themselves, right? And I'm
Living
sure
in the
you can
moment.
find native tribes with a similar thing. They have literally less than nothing compared to Western society, but they're happy, right? They have their own piece of knowing their role in life and they're content with it. So that is more important than anything, but it's something that's hard for people to. I think it's coming more into awareness of people taking mental health more seriously now.
Depression's on the rise for these reasons. I'm convinced.
But at the very least, I think there's more acknowledgement of the problem. Yeah. I think when I was growing up, like, we're in the same times, 80s, 90s, if you told somebody you were seeing a therapist or psychiatrist, they'd be
You're fucked up.
Like, whoa, man, that guy's got real problems.
Yeah, like he's going to kill me. Like, kind of like psycho kind of.
It's like, no.
Now it's like everyone.
Yeah, everybody's got problems. The problem is everybody was leaving their problems untreated, oh, that's normal. And like, I think people like, oh, divorce is on the rise. I think partly, there's a lot of reasons, but I think one of them is that people back then just knew, like, you don't get divorced.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that means you're a failure. So like, you would have people who are living married miserable.
You know what? You just reminded me of something. There's this tiny little country in Asia, Bhutan. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Bhutan.
Yeah, I think
I get my pronunciation between English and Portuguese confused all the time. But it's not a rich country, right? I'm not sure how wealthy they are, material wealth, but they got together. It's a Buddhist country. It might be a theocracy now that I think about it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But they decided that they weren't going to count their wealth in economic terms anymore. That's probably why I don't know if it's rich or poor. Like, you don't know, because it's not a number they're concerned with. They decided they were going to count their success as a country, based off of how happy people were. So they created the equivalent of a GDP for happiness. I'm not sure how they're measuring that. If it's for cortisol, stress levels, depression rates, suicide rates. That's probably how you would measure happiness in a society, is if no one's depressed, no one's killing themselves, cortisol levels are on average low, means you're not too stressed out, right? And that's how they measure their success as a country. And I thought was like, I'm not saying I'm evolved enough to go that hardcore, go like Buddhist monk and like give away. I like my car. I like my house.
Yeah.
I like to eat well. I enjoy these things. But I think they're probably on the right track. I think that right there is a number far more important than any other number. Because if you have a happy people, man, what's more important than that? And they might be ahead of the rest of the world in that regard. They might be the happiest country in the world because of that, because they set their priorities straight. And once again, I'm not saying I would have lived there, but we're like little crack addicts, man. Like we get addicted to all this stuff. Crack's not good for you. It doesn't mean the crackhead doesn't want it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Crack is horrible for you, but they still want it. I enjoy material things. I'm not, it's not the top priority in my life, but I enjoy spending money.
For sure. No, I think
I like nice things, but I don't think I'm on the right track in terms of that. I think these people, these monks in Bhutan, they're far, they're wiser than I am because they understand where priorities in life should lie.
Yeah, I'm conflicted with that for a couple of reasons. Because one, if you were a true Buddhist, and from my understanding, I could be wrong, and probably am, but your goal is to desire nothing, right? You don't want belongings, people, or anything. You're just Zen completely out. If you were able to successfully do that, and maybe there are people that do that, you're no longer human, right? Or animal.
True.
Right?
True. Very true.
You also have no motivation to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Buddha sat under a tree for however long he did.
Too long.
Maybe too long, right? But like the whole point is like that's what would happen with zero ambition.
Correct.
So there would be zero progress.
Yeah.
And if everybody did that, the whole society would fall apart right away. Yeah. People would starve and die.
There would be no penicillin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily the right. Although maybe that will bring you spiritual enlightenment. If everybody did that, there's no more human race. So there has to be some amount of, I believe, of ambition.
Right. You're right.
To create progress. Now, how are we measuring progress? Well, they're measuring it by happiness. Maybe they're right. To me, I would say the survival of the human race would be progress, right? And if we're able to be happier and be able to inhabit more
figure out cancer.
Sure.
We need ambition for that.
Right. And then people have to do it. But now, just like everything, I think you have to temper it, right? When you have super high ambition, then it creates a lot of stress because that means you put a lot of demand on yourself and you have to go after things all the time. So it's tricky, right? And it's hard to maintain high levels of ambition for a long time. I was actually listening to Joe Rogan. He had a astronaut. What's his name? I forget. It was Garrett something or other. Reisman, I think. Very interesting conversation, but he was talking about Elon Musk. Because this guy worked with NASA, and now he worked with SpaceX. And he was saying how he's never met anybody like Elon because he's so ambitious and so productive. And he's like an expert like in 20 different fields. And apparently he was saying like he will be on the floor of the machine factory and he knows all the terms and he understands everything going on. Then he goes into a boardroom, understands all the marketing, and he goes into other things. He stands the science of the cars and all that. So it's like how is he so well versed in so many things and like an expert pretty much in all these different fields and has the drive to do this for like 20, 30 years.
It's impressive.
It's impressive, but he's also a very eccentric character as well.
Oh, I've heard he take books to parties. I've heard of that. I don't know if it's true or not, but he'd take everyone's at a party and like fucking reading. Yeah. I believe that. Like that, I think that's what it would take. What's impressive, his ambition to me is less impressive. Is how incredibly productive he managed to be with his time because he's accomplished a lot in a very short period of time.
Yes.
I can barely manage a gym. I'm a pretty ambitious person, I think, but I'm like, I don't know how he does it, man, because I can barely manage. Like, I got like 6 employees, and I can barely handle it. Yeah. This guy, I don't know how he does it. Yeah. I mean, sure, he's got a good team of people, but you don't build a team of people like that unless you have a certain talent. Just going back to your point, Dave, I think you hit the nail on the head. Be a good way for us to wrap it up. It's balance, man. Yeah. Buddha said that too.
Yeah.
Right. If you tighten the cord too much, the string too much, it doesn't play if it's too loose. You gotta, when you tune a guitar, it's got to be just right to play well.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to put it. We need some ambition too.
Yeah.
You know, as you can. I'm not ready to go all zen and like, oh, just be happy, nothing else. Like I like to grind. I like to work. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's important that we have that.
Absolutely. I do think having purpose gives you, definitely, and it gives you motivation, it gives you drive, it gives you things to do, and ultimately you're contributing to everybody else. Ideally, I would think like when my time is done, I have made some sort of progress for the rest of the world
Yeah.
to move a little bit more forward and walk on those footsteps that I laid out.
That's the ultimate goal. Make the world slightly better. See, me and Dave have reached enlightenment here, in case you guys are wondering. We're like ready, like the clouds are going to part any moment now.
And take us away.
Straight away. All right. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys had fun. I got to get going. I got to sign that lease. Oh, start my MMA team.
Yeah.
And I'll see you guys again next week.
All right. Take care.
All right. Ciao.